One of our patients just had a baby and we had no idea she was pregnant.
Shock and disbelief in a 911 call after a woman in a coma gives birth. She lived with a tumor for years until it grew to be the size of a toddler. The exclusive interview with her family after it's finally removed.
This is a big foodie town. I mean, there are many, many great restaurants in this town. It's such an honor.
And a KHOU restaurant proves you don't have to be big or fancy to be one of the best. And good evening, happy Friday. We've had several spectacular days, but the rain is now starting to move in. It is part of a big storm system sweeping across the country right now. David, when will it get here and how much rain are we talking about?
Cannon, this is all part of storm system number 6 of the winter season for us, and this one has 2 parts to it. Dip in the northern branch of the jet stream. You can see it there just south of Denver. It's snowing in Denver and back into the Great Plains. Then the southern branch of the jet over top of Texas, dipping back into the Pacific Ocean. That's bringing moisture at the mid-levels at 18,000 feet. At the surface, we've got an onshore flow, another moisture source, and so this is going to feed this line of rain and maybe a couple of thunderstorms that's in central Texas now, but is only a couple of hours away from getting into the Houston area. That's heavy snow across the Great Plains tonight. And so there's our line of storms now lining up from Dallas to College Station to Victoria. It will march on through. I don't expect severe, but maybe a few claps of thunder overnight. So here's what to expect. Rain and thunder tonight. It will end mid-morning, maybe earlier than that, and then it turns breezy and colder Saturday afternoon. I'll show you what to expect temperature-wise coming up.
We'll see you then. Stay informed around the clock by downloading the KHOU 11 app so you can get up-to-the-minute forecast and track the rain any time. 21 days and counting for the partial government shutdown, and tonight we want to know what you think. Who will give in first or compromise, President Trump or Democratic leaders Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi? Vote now on our website or the KHOU 11 News app, and we will watch the results come in at the bottom of the screen. While we do that, we will take a look at what it takes to resolve difficult negotiations. Larry Sieber talked to a couple of professional negotiators to get their take on what's happening. Larry?
Len, neither guy talked specifically about shutdown negotiations, but both said negotiating shares one basic premise that no one really wants to argue or fight. That's common ground, and that is where agreements begin.
Roman asked for me, and he's going to get me. We're going to do it my way or I walk.
The Negotiator movie nailed the mindset, if you ask Ray Garavay.
It's a give and take.
He negotiated high-pressure life and death crises in Pasadena for 16 years. He always went in ready to bend a bit.
So when you're talking to these folks, you're letting them know that you're there to help, but at the same time, you're listening to what they have to say and taking in and grasping both sides of the story.
That's a start, but when talks stall in court, mediator Trey Bergman says the other side's interests then become key.
Everybody will tell you what their needs are, but it's their interests that are the deep down driving determiners of what gets a case resolved.
Appealing to those leads to common interests, where moving demands is easier.
You might only have 2 or 3 moves when you're buying a house. When you're mediating a dispute, you might have 15, 20 moves. And so the longer they're involved in the process, the more likely they are to stay and not walk out.
That's why it's called negotiations. If you want to get something from this person, take for instance a hostage. We're willing to give you something, but we want a hostage in return. Again, if you're not willing to do that, you're going to go absolutely nowhere.
Meaning progress in Washington's historic shutdown is a mind-first matter. Len, like you and I, they are looking forward to the president and Congress ending this partial government shutdown. They're also wondering what ingredients that you just heard are influencing this negotiation. Len?
We will see how it goes. Larry, thank you. Well, remember the GoFundMe page started by a veteran to help pay for the border wall? Everyone who donated will get their money back. Despite raising an impressive $20 million, the page did not hit its goal of $1 billion, so everyone will get automatic refunds in April. Now let's take a look at the results of our question of the night. Who do you think will give in first or compromise in this budget showdown? Look at the numbers. Most of you believe the Democrats will be the first to blink. 71% to President Trump's 28%. Thanks everybody for voting. A Houston woman is recovering from a rare surgery tonight. For years, she thought she was gaining weight, but it turned out to be something far more troubling. Levi Ismail here with her story. Levi?
Well, Brandy could feel something was off, and that feeling lasted years. When her wife finally said it's time to see a doctor, they were both in shock. Now, we want to warn you before seeing this, the images you're about to see will be graphic. For 6 hours, Tammy Contreras sat in the maternity ward, waiting and thinking. Her wife Brandy wasn't pregnant, but what was inside her?
It was growing.
At first you think you're just gaining weight, but after years you start to wonder.
I mean, you could just tell, it felt like a big rock inside of her stomach.
Brandy was rushed to the hospital.
I think the exact words were, it's a mass 29.5 centimeters, the size of a basketball.
Growing on Tammy's ovaries.
And yet it wasn't considered an emergency.
No insurance meant having to wait almost 6 months until they were able to buy some and then schedule a surgery for this week.
Yeah,
by then,
one hand here,
4 basketballs could fit inside.
Down. Yeah, the ovary was so inside that mass that the mass had grew over one of the ovaries.
Which begged the question, why didn't any doctor years before notice something and act?
Yeah, she's still grappling around it, but she's alive, and that's all I care about.
A study from the University of Colorado says 50% of women with irregular periods will get benign ovarian tumors in their lifetime, 30% for those with regular periods. Few, however, to this extent.
They said this is probably over a course of at least 10 years.
Brandy is now tumor-free, without pain and a few pounds lighter, still grappling with what happened, but grateful to be home. The Contreras family says they're grateful for the doctors who ultimately saved Brandy's life. They say they hope others will consider getting checked out if they feel their body changing in a similar way. Len?
Boy, that is really quite a story, Levi. We are glad she's going to be okay.
Definitely.
Thanks for the update. It is a disturbing case of sex abuse. A woman in a Phoenix healthcare facility who has been in a coma for 10 years unexpectedly gave birth last month. The shocking 911 call from nurses was just released today.
Doing CPR on the baby.
Okay, good. Just keep going with that. And how's the mom doing?
Looks like she's doing well. We had no idea this person was pregnant. We had no idea this patient was pregnant. She had a baby. What a baby? Look, there's a baby right there. The baby's breathing? Oh, the baby's breathing. Oh my God, thank God.
Oh my God is right. The woman's parents say they will raise the baby. Police have issued warrants to collect DNA samples from all male staffers at the facility to find out who is responsible. 88 days after she disappeared and her parents were found murdered, 13-year-old Jamie Kloss was found alive and safe. Her parents were shot to death in the family's Wisconsin home in October. The story, which is captivating the nation, kicks off tonight's 90-second nightcap.
Investigators say Kloss turned up in Gordon, Wisconsin, a heavily wooded area about 65 miles from her home. They say she escaped on foot from where she was being held.
She looked really tired and like she's been fighting a battle for weeks.
Authorities say she had been taken against her will by 21-year-old Jake Patterson.
A family member tells us the murders of these 3 precious children have been forgotten.
I can't believe my grandbabies are gone, you know, and my daughter's going through this. It's unreal.
Police say the father of the youngest child beat and stabbed the 3 to death. Their mother is still in the hospital tonight recovering from gunshot wounds.
And her family says she still does not know about the loss of her children.
I'm quite sure it's going to be devastating.
Houston police say they've arrested a serial stalker who preyed on notable Houstonians for decades. 60-year-old Robin Chiswell sent countless threatening letters to socialites and even an A&M football coach.
Often the letters started off with a string of profanity. Some of the cardstock even said, you know, F you on the front of it. Things that were insulting and personal to the people that he was sending the cards to.
Last week, China landed a spacecraft on the far side of the moon, something no country had ever done before. Today, they released a short video of the landing. China had to launch a special satellite to send signals to that spacecraft, since signals from Earth cannot pass through the moon. We know there's always some sort of construction going on around Houston, but this weekend, it's really going to be a mess for drivers in two parts of town. First, on the north side, a stretch of I-45 between Spring and the Woodlands. All northbound lanes at Rayford Road will be shut down the entire weekend so crews can repair the overpass. You'll be forced off the freeway and onto the feeder. The second hot spot, Pearland, where Highway 288 meets FM 518. We're talking total closure in all directions. The 288 bridge that goes over 518 will be demolished this weekend so it can be rebuilt. Check our website and the KHOU 11 News app for updates on whether tonight's rain will affect the road work. We also have suggestions on how to get around those closures.